Yeah, it's 4:15 now. So let's get right to it. Let's come to meet in a comfortable seated position on your mat, sitting however you want. You can be cross-legged, you can be sitting like me. If you really want to start laying down, then you can start laying down. I like to go over my general rules within my classes. That is, you're more than welcome to make it your own. This week, my class is based off the element water. If you're not familiar, I like basing my classes off the elements now. It provides me with a really nice structure that fits my teaching style, forces me to switch it up, and it just really coincides with all the different ways that I like to teach. So this week is the water element, so this class is going to be a bit more flowy. Not too difficult, but you always have the option to make it more gentle or more challenging. So any poses or cues I give are merely suggestions. Sorry, I was trying to turn that down, I just turned it up. Are merely suggestions. So if I cue for something and it does not feel good within your body, you are more than welcome to make slight slow and controlled modifications, or you're more than welcome to omit it altogether. If it feels good within your body what you're doing, then that means you're doing it right. So keep doing it. And if it doesn't look like what I myself or anyone else is doing, then that's all right as well. Okay, so with that said, again, let's come to our comfortable seated position. We're going to just gather our hands anywhere, somewhere in our lap or down by our sides if we're laying down. And you can either close out your eyes or just set your gaze either on the ceiling or 2 or 3 feet in front of you if you are seated. Challenging yourself to keep your gaze focused. Our eyes can be a huge source of distraction. So if we can focus our eyes, it can help focus our minds, and then our bodies stay a little more calm as well. So if you notice that your gaze starts to wander, just catch it when it does and gently bring it back to that focal point. And since this week is more of a flowy class, you're more than welcome to find gentle flowing movement here, whatever that may look like for you. If you prefer to sit in stillness, then of course, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Bring your focus now to your physical body, noticing any sensations, any areas of ease or discomfort, strength or weakness, coolness or warmth, tightness, openness. Feel your clothing against your skin. Feel the pressure of the ground, the mat against your body. Let your body get a little bit heavier into the pressure and the support of the mat, of the floor. And as that happens, again, if you're in a seated position, start to grow out a little bit taller, out through the crown of your head. The cue I love to give is to imagine that there's a rope attached to the crown of your head and someone's pulling up on it. So you should feel your spine lengthen. Just revel in these subtle physical sensations for a moment as you notice how your body is feeling here and now, and start to focus on your breath as well. Maybe start by noticing the cool air being pulled in through your nostrils and the warm air coming out through your nose. You start to deepen your inhales, lengthen your exhales. Starting to regulate your breath to also further regulate your body, your mind. Paying attention to the breath, something we do all day, every day, all night. We don't often pay attention to. So keeping your focus on your breath. Just like in meditation, when the mind does start to wander away from the breath, gently bring it back. Keep focusing on the breath, and we're just going to bring a little bit more movement into this. Again, it can be whatever you want. Maybe your sway just gets a little bit bigger. Keep lengthening the inhales and the exhales. Maybe you reach one arm overhead and then the other. Try to move a little bit slower than you want to. Sometimes that can be a big challenge. You can get some twisting motion into this. Just gentle twists. Again, this is just kind of a warm-up. Maybe you've been sitting all day. Maybe you've been standing all day. Just start moving the body in ways that it hasn't moved all day. You just do shoulder rolls. And again, keep it as subtle or as exaggerated as you want. Trying to pay attention to the body and the breath at the same time. It might be challenging. You might be jumping back and forth from one to the other. If you run out of things to do, then again, just come back to what we usually do in class. Start to warm up through the wrists. Do whatever feels good. You can take big stretches. Do these controlled, articulated rotations through the wrists. I don't think there will be too much wrist, like arm, hand weight bearing in this class, but there's always some in yoga. Your eyes can still be closed. Otherwise, keeping them as focused as possible. Keep working into the upper body. You can start doing little seated cat-cows here. However you're moving, let's come through to neutral, whatever seated position. If you were laying down, then coming up to a seated position. And we'll just do little head rolls here. Again, set your gaze. We're not worried about how we look. We're worried about how this feels. It's just little half circles. Bringing one ear towards the same shoulder and then the chin down towards the chest. And then over to the other side, that ear comes towards the shoulder. So just rolling the front part of the body here. Again, move a little bit slower than you want to. You can stick with this, or if you want to start getting a full rotation, just take it slow, be gentle. We're not trying to impress anyone with how far our head can go back. That's kind of the beauty of practicing at home. We're not worried about keeping up appearances as much as we try to let that go in class. It does always linger to some extent. Once you've had enough of that, let's come to meet in a tabletop position. I love starting out the flowy classes this way, so most of them will start out like this. I'm going to break it down. We're just going to kind of flow through. Let's start with kind of a cat-cow. So I'm going to protract through the shoulder blades, tuck my chin in towards the chest, and tuck my tailbone down and under. So if I were a dog, I'd be tucking my tail between my legs. And on the inhale, I let my belly get heavy. My chest opens. I can pull my chest through a little bit as well, lift the head, and I come into an anterior pelvic tilt. Exhale, curl everything in. Inhale. Coming up. Exhale. Inhale. Now from here, from this cow position, we're just going to pull the hips back. As we do so, our pelvis is going to start to come into posterior pelvic tilt, so tucking our tail between our legs. And then we're gonna round through the upper body, tuck the chin in towards the chest as we then shift forward. And you can come a little bit more forward here. Maybe you shift your knees back a little bit so you can come into a little bit of an upward facing dog here. Make it really gentle. Maybe the arms are bent. Maybe you don't come all the way. And then we tuck the tailbone. It's kind of in this cow shape again. Pulling the hips all the way back. Once you come to this child's pose, we tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone, round through the upper back as we pull the hips forward to this upward facing dog. If the shoulders are really shrugging, then again, maybe bend the elbows a little bit. We're just trying to push the elbows away from the ears. Tuck the tailbone down towards the heels to protect the lower back. If we can be a little bit wider, again, this is kind of very gentle and artsy and not as technical as some other yoga classes, including my own. From here, we're now pulling the hips back in this cow position. Back to child's pose. Tuck everything in for cat as we shift forward into our pseudo upward facing dog. Pull it back. Keep going at your own pace here. If you want to make sure your breathing's right, you can inhale to come forward. Inhaling as we expand through the chest, and then exhale as we pull back, getting small through the body. Inhale forward. Exhale back. We'll do this for a few more rounds. Again, just really try to feel every part of it. Come to a neutral tabletop, and then just bring yourself to a seated position. Before we get into the thick of it too much, we're just going to do a little more side to side flowing. So we're just coming to sit in this wide leg straddle position. From here, with the arms out to the side, you can keep one arm down as support as you reach the other arm up and over. This is my left hand reaching over to my left hand. Doesn't matter which side you start with. And then just up to the other side. So keep it gentle and supported. Your feet needn't be too crazy wide apart. You want to be able to have a little bit of an anterior pelvic tilt. Just going side to side. If you want a little bit more stretch, a little more challenge, bring the lower arm down in front of you and then the top arm overhead. Up through center and the other way. Doing this for a couple more rounds. And finish off wherever you were. Come up through center. Lower the arms. Bring the feet together. And we're going to come to meet in a downward facing dog. Get comfortable here. I'm going to go through the down dog cues. So first of all, you can pedal out the legs. Bringing one leg and then the other. Bringing one heel closer to the mat and then the other. If you feel a lot of pressure in your wrists here, bring the weight more into the knuckles. So even if you lift up the heel of the palm a little bit, just to get that sensation of what it feels like to take some of the weight out of the wrists. If your shoulders are really tight, just try to melt the heart down.
Trying to get the ears between the biceps. If you're not there yet, again, no harm in that. Just trying to settle into this. That ease within the effort of holding the pose. Come up high on the toes. Lower both heels over to one side. Get a nice side body stretch. Come up high through center on the toes, and then lower the heels off to the other side, stretching out the lateral side of the other side of the body. Come up through center, and then slowly start to melt your heels down towards the mat. If you feel like your heels are really far away, you can think about flexing through the feet. When we actively engage the front line of the body, it helps open up the back side of the body. So if you're really tight in the back of the body, again, think about flexing instead of lengthening through the back side of the legs. Shrug the shoulders up by the ears. Hug the rib cage in if it's really flaring out. Imagine someone standing behind you and putting their hands in your hip crease and then pulling your hips up. So you're getting more length through your spine. From here, we're going to tuck the chin in towards our chest, round through the upper back as we come forward into plank, and then lower the hips down. You can lower the knees and untuck the feet. Again, feet might be a little bit wider. So again, we're coming into this kind of partial, maybe gentle upward facing dog. And then from here, to keep it gentle, come through the knees, tuck the toes, and then lead the hips back to downward facing dog. So we're just flowing back and forth again, sort of like we did from the knees. Tuck the chin, come up high on the toes, round through the upper back as you come forward into plank, and then lower the hips. Upward facing dog. Again, my elbows are bent here, so yours can be too. If you want it to be a little bit more challenging for the core, tuck the toes here, lift the thighs, and then lift up rather than coming through the knees. Again, it takes a little bit more core. Come forward. If you want to omit flipping over on the toes here, you can. I just suggest keeping the thighs up off the mat. It can be a little bit too much on the lower back if you lower the thighs and the toes are tucked. So if you want to lower the thighs, untuck the toes. If you don't want to tuck the toes, keep the thighs levitating. And then pull it back. Keep doing whatever variation you're doing with your breath. Inhale forward. Exhale, pull it back. Inhale forward. Exhale back. And if you do it the challenging way and you start to get tired, then you can change it up so you come through the knees. Make it gentle when you need it gentle. Make it challenging when you want it challenging. Let's do one more of these. Inhale. Bring it forward through plank. Lower the hips. You can look up. Exhale. Strong through the core. Downward facing dog. Step the left foot more central as you inhale. The right leg up. Pull the right knee in towards your chest. Step the right leg through. If you need to use your hand to get the foot there, that's fine. Lower down on the back knee. And we're just going to flow back and forth between this low lunge and a half monkey, half split pose here. When we pull the hips back, you can keep your toe pointed or you can flex. Pull the hips back, maybe melt the heart down. Inhale, bring everything forward. If this is really challenging for you and you've got blocks can be really nice here. You can use whatever height setting you want, but it can keep your body a little more upright if you feel like the floor is really far away. So bring it forward and then pull it back. Inhale, bring it forward. Exhale, pull it back. If this is a lot on your bent leg, you can tuck the back toe, fold up your mat a little bit too, and you just get a little bit more padding. So I know it can be
Not very enjoyable to get into this if your knee is uncomfortable. Keep working this. If your range of motion isn't that great, that's fine as well. Maybe you're barely moving back and forth. That's fine. That range comes with time. Exhale, pull the hips back. Inhale forward. If you want a little bit more, push down to the top of the back foot and lift the knee up a little bit. Your mat might unfold like mine. But just brings a little bit different sensation into this. And then exhale, lower that back knee back. Shift the hips back, maybe melt down the heart a little bit more, flex a little bit more through the front foot, just to feel even more of that beautiful stretch. Keep going. You can keep with this challenge where you pick up your back knee when you come here, or if you want a little bit more in your quad, if you only feel this in the hip flexor area, you can start to bend through the back leg when you come into the low lunge position, and then lower it down as you shift back. If you're feeling really open, you also have the option of lengthening out a little bit more. So this will shorten your range of motion too, but you're going to be coming more into a split. Again, keep working with whatever variation, whatever progression you want to work with. Try to really lift your heart when you're in the low lunge, regardless of how wide or narrow your stance is. I'm just going to move my blocks off to the side. Bring both hands to the inside of this right leg. And we're going to hang out in this lizard lunge. So your hands might be closer by your feet. I kind of shifted, so this is where I am at. But you can let your right knee fall out to the side. Come onto the knife edge of that right foot. Just hang out here. Keep the core strong. The hips are lowering here, but we're not collapsing through the core. Pull the hips up a little bit as you tuck the back toe. A little bit of a challenge here. We're going to untuck the back, come up off of the back knee. Bring the weight into the hands. And if you can, see if you can pick up this right foot and then bring it back into a three-legged dog. If the foot can come up, what you can do is just kind of inch it back and step it back. Three-legged dog. Lower the right leg down. Right leg replaces right foot, stooping replaces the left leg comes up. Inhale, exhale, pull the left knee towards the chest, and then step it through. Again, use your hand for help if you want, if you need. If you want that support for the knee, do so now. You can grab your blocks as well. Same thing on this side. We're just coming into this lunge and shifting back into our half split. Melt the heart down. Trying to get the rib cage to the thigh, the chest to the knee, rather than just trying to get our head down to our shin. Inhale, pull it through it. Really spread through the collarbones. Let the heart shine forth. Exhale, pull it back. Again, it doesn't so much matter what it looks like, it's what it feels like. We want to feel a stretch, and sometimes stretching can be a little bit uncomfortable. But we do want to avoid that red flag pain. Discomfort is okay, pain, we want to avoid. If you did so on the other side and you want to here, you can push down to the top of that back foot, lift the knee as you come forward. Again, just a slightly different sensation. And then bring it back. Maybe melt the heart down a little bit more, flex a little bit harder through the front foot. And same thing here, you can stick with the challenge I just gave, or you can bend through this back leg to bring the stretch a little bit more into the quad. Let's do one more round before we get settled into our lizard. I'm just going to move my blocks off to the side, bring both hands to the inside of what is now my left foot, and you can let the knee fall out to the left a little bit. If it's ever too much on the wrists, you're more than welcome to switch it up, coming onto the fists. Could be a change. Maybe the fingertips, that can be kind of challenging to hold for a long time, so maybe you just do this for a few seconds to build up some strength through the hands, and then you come onto the fists. But again, they're nice variations rather than always being down on the palms, which can get to be a bit too much a lot of the time. If it's within your practice too, you're always more than welcome to come down onto the forearms. If you ever move into a progression and you find it's too much, there's no shame in backing out of it. We always want to be able to breathe through everything that we're holding. Now from here, if you were lowered, come back up to the hands, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and then engage in your core, bringing the weight into your hands, doming through the upper back. See if you can pick up the foot, even if you have to tiptoe, kind of tap it back, coming back into our three-legged dog. Lower the left leg down, hanging out in this downward facing dog. 3 rounds of breath here. Now this next thing we're going to do, again, I'm going to take you through progressions. So you're more than welcome to stop at the first progression, or you can stick with me as I make it more and more challenging. So what we're going to do here, we're going to inhale, and then exhale, bend through the knees as we come up on the toes and look forward. And on the next inhale, we're just going to step our feet up to the outsides of our hands, lower the hips as much as we can into our Malasana squat. Maybe we pick up the hands and just hang out here. And then we lower the hands and step it back, downward facing dog. Inhale. Exhale, bend the knees, look forward. Next inhale, step the feet just on the outside of the hands, lower the hips. Malasana. Lower the hands, lift the hips, step it back, downward facing dog. So you can stick with that. If you want a little bit more, we're going to inhale, exhale, bend the knees, look forward. Inhale, step the feet and cross them between the hands, and then try to get the feet through. And then come into a boat pose. So if you're sticking with the first variation, you're just holding Malasana here, the yogic squat. If you're in the boat variation, cross the ankles, bring the heels towards the bum, plant the hands, lift the hips, and everyone stepping back, downward facing dog. So those would be 2 options. Stick with what you want, work at your own pace. We're going to do a few rounds of this. Wherever you are, let's do one more round.
Let's all meet in downward facing dog. Take a couple breaths here. Bring the left foot a little bit more central. Inhale the right leg up. We're going to open up through the hips, so just the hips. Shoulders stay square. Bending through this top leg. Open up through the hips. And then we're going to pull the knee in towards the chest. Lower the shin down. Bring the weight onto the right hand. You can readjust wherever feels good. And then just open up through the chest. Let the left arm do whatever it pleases. If you've got blocks in the way, move, because you might know what the progression is going to be for this. Come back through to your downward facing three-legged dog. And then open up through the hips again. So we're just going to flow back and forth through this. Just opening through the hips. Lower the shin. Open up. Two more rounds of this. Taking it slowly and slower than you want to. It does make it harder, but we're up for the challenge. Now you're more than welcome to stick with that gentle version. If you want a little bit more, when we start to open up here, we're going to swivel onto the grounded foot and slowly start to lower the back foot behind us. So we come into a wild thing. Lift the hips, lift the chest, let the arm, the right arm, this is my right arm, melt down heavy. You can set your gaze wherever feels good. Swivel back through, and then instead of lowering the shin, we're going to extend the right leg through and underneath us and come into a fallen triangle. So again, work with whatever progression you want. We're going to do 3 more rounds on this.
17 years to put childish
Come through your three-legged dog, wherever you're doing, and then either open through the hips or come into wild. Three-legged dog, let's hang out here. Lower the right knee down. Lower the left knee down. Come into a child's pose. Start to tent the fingers here. So I'm going to move my hair so you can hear. So tenting the fingers here. And then if you can, see if you can lift one hand up and lower the fingertips down. Lift the other hand up and lower. Lift the fingers off, lower. Lift the fingers off and lower. Keep doing that, alternating. Maybe you're omitting it. Maybe this is enough of a stretch for you. As you lift the fingers, really reach the fingers forward as well, and then lower. Lift and reach, reach, reach. And lower. Couple more rounds here. Slide the arms down by your sides. Reach your feet, your hands back towards your feet, excuse me. Let the arms rest. Maybe you give yourself a little forehead massage. And then we're going to slowly round all the way up. The vertebrae stacking on top of the other. Head comes up last. From here, let's get set up in our downward facing dog again for the other side. So now our right foot's going to come more central. We're going to inhale the left leg up. We'll start with the gentle variation. Shoulders stay square. We're just opening up through the hips here as that top leg bends. See if you can see the foot as you look past underneath the right armpit. And then pull the left knee towards the chest. Lower the shin down. Readjust the hands if you need to. And then open up here so my right arm is coming up. Lower down, looking down at the mat. Use your core. Strong engagement. Come back up through your three-legged dog. Keep the shoulders square as we open just through the hips. Pull the left knee through, lower the shin. Open up here. So it's like a little supported side plank. This is the last round of the gentle variation if you are looking to do the other version as well. Otherwise, stick with this version. Let's all come to meet in our three-legged dog. Again, you can stick with what we're doing. If you want to go further, then let's start to open through the hips. Swivel on the back foot as we gently let our top leg touch down behind us. And then the left arm reaches up as we lift through our hips, lift our chest. Swivel back around, pull the knee towards the chest, but this time slide the foot through if you're doing this variation with me. Fallen triangle. 3 rounds of this, that was one. Working with your own breath, working at your own pace. Everyone meeting in our three-legged dog, holding it here. And now this time, sliding our left leg through. Yeah, let's do a little bit of pigeon. So our left leg is in front of us, right leg is back behind us. Check to make sure it's in a straight line. Check and make sure the ankle's not sickling. You can keep the shin close to the body. If you like a little bit more through the hip, you can heel toe the foot a little bit up, so you're trying to get the shin more parallel with the top of your mat. And from here, you can use your hands. Heck, maybe you can use your blocks. And we're going to square up our hips. So our pigeon's going to be levitating a little bit. So with my left leg forward, I'm pulling my left hip back as I pull my right hip forward to square it up. And then sink down into it. Maybe let the chest melt down. Inhale up, square up the hips. Exhale, lower. Inhale, square up the hips. Use the engagement here. If you want a little bit more, and you can change the settings of your blocks, you can take it into a little bit of a back bend here. Lifting the sternum up to avoid dumping into the lower back. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, coming up. If you want a little bit more still, bend to that back leg, square up the hips, and then reach the head back. Lower down. Couple more rounds of this. You can see I'm changing the height of my blocks as I come down. I put it on the second setting. As I come up, I change it to the third setting. So that's
too much going on for you, then you can omit it, but it works for me, so. Hanging out here in this pigeon pose. Bringing the torso up. If you've got the blocks, moving them off to the side. We're going to take the back leg and swing it around in front of us, coming into fire log pose. So a couple options. We're going to keep the, actually no, we'll work into the other one. So the leg that you just swung around, for me, is my right leg. It can be in front of the left shin, creating a bit of a triangle with the legs, and the feet can be pointed if you're doing that variation. If you can stack the shins, you can do so. I like to keep my feet on the inside of my knees. It's a little more intense if you bring your feet more to the outside of the knees, but you're more than welcome to dabble in that. If you're doing either of these ones where the shins are stacked, feet are flexed to protect the knees. And we're just going to melt the rib cage down. Hands can come in front of you. Try to bring the forearms down. Grow long out through the crown of the head. Again, we're trying to get the rib cage down first, and then maybe the head comes down later. But that's not our key objective here. And gently coming up. And we're just going to step back into our downward facing dog from here. Let's inhale the left leg up and do this little pigeon drill on the other side. So left knee comes between the hands. Oh, whoops, that was the wrong side. Come back through to downward facing dog. Inhale the right leg up. And then that knee comes in between the hands. So again, you can keep your shin close to your body, or you can heel toe the foot out, bringing the shin more parallel. Untuck the back toe. Look behind you, check in, make sure the leg is relatively straight and that the ankle's not sickling too much. Grab your blocks if you use them on the other side. And from here, we're going to square the hips up. So we're going to levitate here. So with my right leg forward, I'm pulling my left hip forward as I pull my right hip back. And then I'm going to lower down into it. Inhale, squaring the hips up. Exhale, lower everything down. Inhale, lift everything up. Bring that engagement into the hips. Maybe start bringing a little bit of a back bend in. And lift up, out through the sternum to protect the lower back. Lower down. Inhale, same thing on this side. Maybe you want to bend the back leg. You can see I kind of walked my leg back. That helps me come to the top, kind of above my kneecap rather than right on my kneecap, and it's going to make it far more comfortable. And then I bend my leg. Change the setting of my blocks. Lift the sternum, look back. Exhale. I change the setting on my blocks, lower everything down. Inhale. Bring it up, whatever variation you're doing. Let's do one more round. Really square up the hips here. It should be tiring for the hips. We're using engagement and strength. Lower down, hanging out here for a moment. Coming up out of it, rolling onto the right hip a little bit, if that's which leg is forward. Move the blocks out of the way. And swing the left leg in front of you. Fire log pose, so again, maybe your left shin's just in front of the right, or maybe you stack the left shin on top of the right, flexing the feet if you're doing so. Feet can be on the inside of the knees, or for a little more intensity, on the outside. From here, lowering the rib cage down. You can bring the hands in front of you, trying to lower the forearms. Find length out through the crown of the head.
And then exhale, fold just a smidgen deeper.
Inhaling as we come all the way up. Let's release the legs. Turn lengthwise on our mat. And let's come into kind of like a, I always forget the name of this one. It's like we're in a seated tree pose. So the one foot is bent and in on the other thigh. And we're going to square up our torso so it's over the extended leg. And then we're going to melt our rib cage, our chest, and lastly our head down. So we might be really tight, we might not be that far down. This is what we look like again. We're just trying to get sensation here. If you can lower the forearms, then do so. Again, don't worry too much about getting the head down. All right. So sorry if it cut out there. Just melting over this extended leg. Work with your breath. Inhale to lengthen out through the crown of the head. Exhale to fold even a millimeter deeper. Just feel a nice side body. You're more than welcome to hang out here. If you want to keep up with the flowy movement, come up, reach the left arm back behind you. And we're just kind of doing the same similar shape to what we did before. We're going to come up on this shin and just lift the hips. Lower the hips down. Hinge over the front leg. Bring it up through neutral and reach back behind. Lift the hips. Set the gaze wherever it feels good for you. Let's do a couple more rounds before we switch sides. And lower the hips. Let's switch the legs here. Once you've done so, take in the torso and aiming at that extended leg. You can flex through the foot to get a greater stretch. And then again, we're just hinging forward, trying to bring our rib cage to our thigh first. Maybe this is as far as we are. Work with your breath here. Inhale to lengthen out through the crown of the head. Exhale to fold. If you've got a little bit more room, try to lower the forearms down. Again, keep working with your breath. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of the head. Exhale, fold. Option to reach for the foot if it's within your practice. But again, being grateful for where you are in your practice, for what your body can do for you. Focusing on what we can do rather than what we can't do. Steady there if you want more of the flowing movement. Coming up, reaching the right arm back behind. Lifting through the hips as we come onto the right shin. Taking this similar shape that we took before. Lower it down. Melt over the extended leg. A few more rounds of this. Work at your own pace, with your own breath again. The last round, wherever you are. Lower the hips and come into our wide straddle stretch again. So So this time we're just going to gently zigzag. So flowing, swaying, zigzagging, however you want to think of it. We're just going to slowly zigzag our way into this stretch. So your feet should only be so wide that you can still get a bit of an anterior pelvic tilt. If this is a really horrendous stretch for you, you can get a thin pillow underneath your hips, or a sweater folded up or something, and it helps tilt the pelvis a little bit more. But then again, we're just treating this like a roadway going down a steep hill. We're just easing the descent by zigzagging it. Again, maybe this is as far as you go, maybe you barely moved at all. Just keep working with what you've got. Just working into other parts of the legs too by getting a little bit more range of motion in this fold. If you can do a lower to the forearms, then by all means. Maybe closing out the eyes. We're nearing the end of class. Keep the breath slow, controlled. Keep reaching out through the crown of the head as you ever so slowly zigzag your way down deeper and deeper, even if your range of motion is not that much. If ever you want to just find stillness, and by all means, you can play around with pointing your feet, flexing your feet. Let's hold it for just a moment longer. And then we're going to gently zigzag our way up. The zigzags up can be a little bit wider, further apart, but still taking it slow, easing our body out of it. Avoiding slingshotting or coming too fast out of any pose. Once you're all the way up, sitting back and just sliding the feet together. You can wiggle out the legs if that's a lot for you. And then let's come to lay on our backs. We're going to finish up class with, let's do a spinal twist. So I'm going to extend through my left leg here. Using my bent right leg, I'm going to shift onto the outside of this left hip. Now I just took a yoga class because usually I say let's keep the right shoulder planted down, and if the knee doesn't come down as far, that's fine, and it helps keep the twist more up in the thoracic spine. But I took a yoga class where the teacher said he likes to get people to bring the knee down first and then to get the shoulder down. He said he finds that it just grants more space for twisting a little bit more deeply. So I'm working with that and seeing how it works, just to see if maybe, it does work a little bit better for some people. So again, you can bring the knee all the way down. I find mine lifts up a little bit anyways, but then try to work on bringing the shoulder down, the right shoulder back down. And again, that's going to keep the twist more through the thoracic spine rather than the lumbar spine. And then you can extend the right arm, bring the gaze up past the right fingers. I got my left hand on the top or the outside of my right knee. Find some comfort. If you like to play around, you can play around with extending the top leg. Maybe you want both legs bent. There's a lot of options in these twists.
Slowly, gently come up through center. Square up the hips. I'm going to start the same way I did on the other side. So I'm going to extend through my right leg, push through my left foot as I come onto the outside of my right hip. I find I really like to get onto the hip, so I really twist through it. And then I'm going to lower my left knee over to the right side. My right hand comes onto the outside of that knee. And then I'm going to extend this arm and try to work my shoulder down here. So again, my knee does kind of lift up a little bit. I'm not too concerned about keeping it planted down. And then bringing the gaze out past the right fingers. You can have the palm down on the ground or bring the palm facing upwards. I find that feels a little bit nicer. Closing out the eyes or just setting your gaze. Again, you can play around with extending through that top leg. Maybe you bend up both knees. See what feels nice for you. I don't usually bend both knees, but this is feeling really nice for me today. So. And when you're ready, slowly coming out of it. You can take any final pose that your body may be calling for. Otherwise, just settling into a final Shavasana. It can be more traditional, the legs extended, arms down by your side. Or if that's too much on your lower back, you can keep the legs bent. Let the knees gently fall in towards one another. I like to come into these cactus or goalpost arms. And again, just do whatever feels good for you. Notice how the body feels here. Start to breathe a little bit more deeply. And then I want you to visualize with every inhale, you're taking in so much air that your body gets light and starts to float up off of the mat ever so slightly. And then as you deflate the lungs with the exhale, your body ever so gently sinks down into the mat, making a bit of an indent into the floor, like you're sinking down into a soft mattress. Let's inhale, bringing the body to lightly float and hover. Exhale as it gently, softly lowers down. It's like slow motion bouncing. Just keep working with that visual with your breath. If your mind has wandered, just gently bringing it back to this slow motion bouncing. Finish it out, 2 more rounds. The eyes, the jaw relaxed, and gently rolling over onto the right side, or sorry, whatever side you please, into a fetal position. And then pushing ourselves up into a comfortable seated position. You're more than welcome to take a big good morning stretch here. And once you're done, bringing the wrists to rest on the knees with the palms facing up, point your fingers and thumbs gently come to touch. We'll take our 3 final breaths together here. Eyes can be closed and your gaze can be set. Let's inhale through the nose. Full lungs and then exhale through the mouth. Completely empty them. Again, inhale. Once the lungs are full, exhale through the mouth. Last round, inhale. Fullest breath. Exhale. Let everything go. Bringing the hands through to heart center. And in closing, we say, Namaste.